Hi guys, and welcome to the War Story podcast. If you're a returning listener, good to have you. As I've said before, it's an honour to do this, to speak to the people who speak to, for them to give their time to come on here, and also for you to give your time to listen. I really do appreciate it, so thank you very much on that. That's enough sentimentality. We've got a really fun episode today, to be honest. In a lot of ways, it's a fun episode. The guest, he was a very, very entertaining gentleman from the United States. And he worked in Iraq as a private military contractor for Blackwater. Now, I know a lot of people like myself who were in Iraq at the time always used to kind of look at these guys with a bit of envy in our eye because they were on the rock star wages, kind of living the dream, as it were. But well, I was going to say the stories aren't true. They are true, and we're going to hear a lot of them on today's podcast. If you're coming over to us and listening for the first time, very warm welcome to you. What we're trying to do here on the podcast is get these stories recorded for our generation and later generations. And also, if anybody has a book or anything like that they want to promote, then obviously we want to be a part of helping that as well. So to that end, if you want to check out Morgan's book later, it's all link down in the show notes. He's a great raconteur. I think that's a word for someone who tells a good story, isn't it? But he's one of those. He tells a good story, as I'm sure you'll find out. All we ask, if you enjoy today's episode, is to give him a follow on social media. If you can, get the book. Please support people who've given up their time. And I do appreciate you giving up your time to be here as well. Two-way street. And yeah, basically, guys, if you enjoy the podcast, don't be stingy. Please share it with a mate. If you could share it on social media, that would be great. But you can also just text the link or tell people the old-fashioned way. What I would say as well is I don't know what's going on with social media, to be honest, because the engagement, not the engagement, like the number of people who see the posts on the Veteran State of Mind page is down massively. Probably because some of the stuff me and Joe were saying during COVID, quite honestly, probably still got us in a shadow ban, even though we were right about everything. But if you do see one of the posts coming up, there is that little button now where you don't share it to your story. You just press that. It's got those little arrows on it, and you press that, and it'll come up in your feed. I don't know. Google it, I suppose. I can't explain it. I'm old enough now to not be able to understand all this stuff that's happening in technology. But I know that there is a button that will take you half a second to press, and that will help us out. So if you can figure that out, really appreciate it. If I can get a young person on the podcast to explain it better, then I will do. On the subject of young people, big shout out to Lucas as well, who has been helping me with the editing of these episodes. Again, I'm a technological, whatever that is. I was about to say a word that might get the podcast censored. You just got to worry about censorship all the time these days, haven't you? Anyway, before I get political, let's get into the podcast. Morgan, welcome to the podcast, mate. Great to have you on. How are you doing out there in hot, sunny Arizona?
Oh, dude, it's great. I moved here because I was so used to getting that sweet Baghdad tan in the summer. I was like, I need that in the U.S., so I'm out here in Arizona just soaking it in.
Have you got some pretty lax firearm laws out there as well that you can, if you got like a 50 on top of your car that you can go around with?
Oh, it's on top of the house. I got a tank that's parked next to it, just moving my turret towards my neighbor's house. No, dude, it's funny because the gun laws are all based at the state level, and I grew up in Arizona. Everybody gets to have guns. And then I moved around with the military, and then I was in Boston, Massachusetts, and they have really strict gun laws. But I had no idea that there was such a thing. So I ended up getting all my guns confiscated in Massachusetts and having to fight to get them all back. So yeah, if you ever come to the U.S. and you decide that you're going to have a gun, and make sure you're checking the actual state gun laws. But Arizona's pretty liberal. We have open carry. It's not a big deal.
And by liberal, you mean as in loose on gun laws rather than liberal?
Rather than crazy laws. Yeah, no, it is open carry, open everything here. But it's not like you walk into a supermarket and somebody's got 2 6-shooters on their hip. It's not the Wild West, but you can carry them wherever you want.
You mean people have freedoms and they act responsibly within them?
Yeah, it's crazy. You give
who'd have thought, right?
A little bit of Like, hey, if you're a big boy, you're allowed to have a gun. And people are like, okay, I'll be a big boy.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about what drew you to the military. What did you, growing up, did you have family in the service, or what was that kind of, what was it about the military that drew you towards it as a kid?
Dude, so my dad was in the Navy, but he ended up just selling weed in the Navy and ended up getting kicked out after 4 years. So there was no like military. My grandfather was in World War II, but there was no like, there's no legacy of military. Like there are generations that joined it, but nobody was like, hey, join the military. Dude, I joined in 1999 before the global war on terrorism started. And it was really like, how do you get out of your little town? And what are you going to do? So I messed around for about 6 months. By the time I was 19, I joined the Air National Guard, so the Air Force. And I was just off and running. But dude, it was literally like, it was work construction in my small town or go and join the military. And, I was like a recruiter's wet dream, right? Like I didn't have good grades. I was poor. Like they were lining up outside my door knocking. And I was like, man, I should go join the Marines. Like those guys are really freaking cool. And my grandfather, who was in World War II, said, nah, join the Air Force. They have better food. And I was like, all right. So I joined the Air Force. Dude, I put no thought into it. Like there was no like freedom fighting. Oh, I can't wait to serve my country. It was literally like, hey, this is better than what I'm doing. Let's go.
I mean, he's dead right about the food as well. So
yeah, no,
so these in like a small town like that, then are the recruiters, are they pretty active? Are they seeking you out rather than you needing to go and seek them?
Yeah, dude, 100%. So my guidance counselor didn't like the thought of me going to college was not even on their radar. So in high school, you get this guidance counselor. They're like, these are the classes you have to take if you want to get into this college and that college. Actually, the superintendent of the school, he's now my friend. He said, yeah, Morgan, we should talk about our high potential students. And your name never came up. So we're shocked that you even graduated. So the guidance counselors would say, hey, I got somebody I want you to talk to. And I'd walk into a room and there's some Marine Corps guys sitting there. There's the Army guys sitting there. Like it was literally like people were just steering us because there was one of two things that you did. You either work construction if you stayed in the small town, or go to college would be the second one. The third one's join the military. And it was just seen as a viable option for guys like me. And we hadn't been in a war since 1993. And even then it was all of like 45 days. So it seemed like a pretty safe thing. So it's not political like it is now. It was literally just, hey, this is an option for you, Morgan. Please, God, get out of here because we don't want to deal with you anymore.
So what did you do when you went into the Air Force?
I did security forces, which here's the rub, dude. They tell you you're going to be like military police. And I thought I wanted to be a cop outside. So I was like, this is good training. I'll get all this sweet training, college money. And then it turns out it's a hell of a lot more security than it is law enforcement. So you go in thinking you're going to be a cop and then get to my first base and all I'm doing is sitting there at the front gate, like waving people in. Like, yeah, you're not a tank. Come on in. You're not a tank. All right. Watching planes. I spent 95% of my time sitting there like watching planes or having people come in the front gate. So they call us the infantry of the Air Force, but it really is just, dude, it's just like straight up security guard stuff. Like Paul Blart Mall Cop is what it felt like.
When we say watching planes, you mean like literally like what? Just stood by a plane, gathered a plane?
Yeah, or drove around a plane, made sure that the people that were coming to the plane had the right credentials to get into the plane. Like in the Air Force, they call it the red line. So essentially, if you go beyond this red line, you have to have access or else we got to put you on the ground. It was literally like I'm sitting here staring at a plane, making sure that the wrong people don't get in this plane and steal it somehow. It was, it's not in the recruiting video.
The Maverick.
Like
that. Yeah. So what did you, did you get overseas or anything during this time?
Yeah. So dude, the global war on terror kicked off, 9/11 hit. And for the next 2 years after that, I mean, I volunteered for everything. So my first deployment was in Masira Air Base, Oman. It's where it was like an R&R station for like the Rangers that were actually in Afghanistan. So it was an air base, had the Navy there, had great food, had its own beach. Like, it was a pretty good gig. We had the AC-135s out there, so they would go into Afghanistan, blow some stuff up, come back and land, and then we'd watch them. So that was an easy day. That was like a 90-day pump. I came home. I had to have a hernia surgery because I blew out my intestines when I was lifting over there. And they said, hey, we got another tasker. You guys, Morgan, do you want to go to Jordan? So essentially go to Jordan, but you knew we were going into Iraq. So I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. So I went to Jordan, and then that's where we had the Hellfire and Brimstone, the big drones that were like going in and popping Scud missile sites. And then they sent us to Kuwait, and then from Kuwait, I was there for the ground offensive in Iraq. Dude, it was a short time. It was like 30, 45 days. I have no idea how long it was, to be honest with you. Because we were supposed to start the first airbase, which we did. We started at Talil, and as soon as we started that airbase, we were supposed to go back to Germany, grab a bunch of crap, and we were going to start the airbase in Baghdad. Well, dude, the fighting happened so fast and went north so quick that they had to get somebody else to start the airbase up in Baghdad. So they just sent us home, which was a pretty good gig. Now, the ground offensive sucked, dude. Like, there's Iraq, and then there's a ground offensive, full mop gear, right? All your chemical gear, eating MREs every day. Like, I remember we set up our tents and then woke up the next morning and looked out, and there's like just this unexploded ordnance next to us. They brought in all these smelly POWs. Like, dude, the ground offensive sucked. It was absolutely terrible. But I've got a spectacular story. So they gave us like 2 liters of water every day. They said, look, we don't have enough water. We're trying to push it to the front. So you guys get 2 liters of water. Dude, it's baking hot. We're in all of our mop gear. And my buddy's like, let's save up our water for a couple of days. And I was like, okay, I don't even ask questions. This is my life. After we have like 2 liters of water saved up, he's like, we're going to wash our hair. And I was like, yeah, let's wash our hair, dude. So we'd go outside, put on, like, you got your mop gear on. We take off our tops, like, just put water in your hair and just like soaping our hair up. And it's like coming down. There's just dirt coming down our face, dude. We're disgusting. And like, it looked like one of those Vidal Sassoon commercials where they're like, oh, we're like flopping our hair in the wind and stuff, dude. Like, I'm telling you, that's the prettiest I've ever felt in my life. So we go into the tent and like literally walk in, and everybody stops what they're doing and goes, smells good. And we're like, how's us, dude? We just washed our hair. And they're like, whoa, what do you mean? We don't have any water. We're like, we saved it up and washed our hair. And dude, that was like the highlight of being in the ground offensive. It was washing our hair.
Yeah, I mean, the little things, they make you happy on the ground, right? It's the simple life and the simple things. So when you're out there, did you get any of like Scud, Scud warnings, I guess would be the word for it? Where you thought that you were going to be on the end of things?
We got those all the time in Kuwait, right? Because they were shooting the Scuds into Kuwait. To be honest with you, man, it's not like we had anything set up, right? Like during the ground offensive, it's not like we had the Patriot batteries or anything set up or the warning signs or anything. So, dude, if we took indirect, we just took indirect. I don't remember it getting close enough to like freak me out, but it was just like literally making it up as we went. Somebody just dropped off like 40 prisoners and said, hey, watch these guys. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do with these guys? Somebody else, they brought in a C-17, dropped off like 400 AR-15s. So the M4s, and then nobody came to pick them up. Ammo everywhere. Dude, it was just like, it's so hard to explain because everybody thinks the military is like efficient, but it's literally like
anyone who's having been in the military.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you're sitting there, and the major at the time that was over us was like, sit on that ammunition box, and when somebody comes to pick it up, let me know, because you can't just leave all this ordnance. So I'm like, all right. It's like, oh, and by the way, go help that POW take a dump, right? Like, dude, it was just, I don't know, man. If you got there after like OIF 2 or whatever they call it, like that's when they already started having their bases built and their chow halls and stuff. But it was literally like, here's your MRE. Which one do you want?
So you like living on an airstrip at this time?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, like the airstrip was right here. Right behind it was an old bombed out hangar. We had our tent in between. And then we would bring in, I think we brought in the 101st. I can't remember. But they came in force and started like trying to take over all of our shit. And I was like, dude, you guys are laying where I've been pooping for like 4 days. Yeah. Like I've been pooping right there. And they're like, setting up their mortar stakes, and they're like ready to rock and roll. The war is on. I'm smoking cigarettes at night. Somebody's telling me, "Oh, the sniper's going to kill you," and I was like, "Well, he would have done it already. We've been here for a week." So it was just, dude, it was just weird, and it did elucidate one thing: is that the military just doesn't communicate with itself. It's like you have the Army doing one thing, the Air Force doing another thing, you have another Army unit that's doing another thing, and everybody just kind of like figures it out on the fly, man.
So, when you were out there for this, then did you get into like Iraq proper? Did you see any of Iraq before you came back?
No, I saw the base, dude. That was it. It was literally like, this is our airstrip. This is, and most of it was like I was saying, you're watching planes, except the planes are landing, so trying to get people not to drive on the airstrip while like a plane is landing. But no, dude, it was literally like, come in here, take over this base, get the planes to land, and then somebody's going to come in and take over for us. So I was a fobbit, as they would call it back then.
And is that your first and last time with the Air Force in Iraq?
It was, yeah. That was it. It was, dude. Here's the thing. It was so anticlimactic, right? You train, you're all jazzed up to go to war. This is what I joined up for. You get to war and it's boring as crap and nothing happens. And I was like, dude, this can't be it. Which is part of the reason why when Blackwater came knocking, I was like, yeah, let's go do this thing. Like I actually want to use what I've been trained to do. It was, I mean, if disappointing is a word, because when we came home, the news is there and everybody's like, oh my God, you've been to Iraq and oh my God, I'm so glad you're safe. And I was like, it was literally the most boring shit I've ever done in my life.
So let's talk about that then. How did you go from the Air Force to Blackwater?
So I had a buddy that was in the Air Force with me. He was a former Force Recon Marine. And we get home and we just drank way too much. So one night we were drinking way too much. And he's like, dude, I think I'm going to go work for Blackwater. This is May of 2004. And the Blackwater guys got strung up on the bridge in Fallujah in March 2004. And I was like, dude, that's insane. Like, what the hell are you doing? He's like, don't worry, I'll get in and I'll put in a good word for you. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. Let's be honest. Like, that's like, I'm not going to go over there and die. But he did, dude. He actually got into Blackwater. And back then it was all word of mouth. So they said, "Who? You guys have any buddies that would be willing to do this?" He said, "Call Morgan." I got a call at like 5 a.m. my time, and they were like, "Hey, this is James from Blackwater. Your buddy Mike said that you're good in the pocket. You want to go work for Blackwater?" And I was like, "Dude, I'm not cool. Like, I'm not recon. I'm not like a ranger." And the guy's like, "Whatever, come out here, and if you pass everything, we'll send you to Baghdad anyway." And I was like, and he's like, "It's $550 a day." And I said, "Yeah, okay, let's do it. Why the hell not?" And dude, it was literally like that much thought I put into it. You say $500 a day with a 10% bonus, I'm out of here. So it was like 2 weeks later. I was in Moyock, North Carolina. I was the fourth class to ever go through the new contract that they had, which was a Department of State contract. 2.5 weeks of training. It was nothing. And then I'm literally on a plane to Jordan to take a hop into Baghdad. And I was like, funny where life takes you when you just let it.
So had you left the Air Force then? How did that work?
Yeah, I was still in the reserves.
Reserves.
But yeah, I essentially was like, I was done. We weren't on active duty orders, so I had the ability to go over and do whatever I wanted.
So what was the training like? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Okay, so everything you think in your mind that it's going to be, it's none of that. It's not that hard. It was a 1.5 mile run, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, and a dummy drag. Like, it wasn't difficult. And then once you get done with the PT test, you straight out to the range. Very basic range stuff. It's, start at 300 meters, 250, 200. You do that with your M4. They give us a Glock, so you did the pistol qual. And then it was an AK-47, 240 Bravo, 249, a shotgun. Like, whatever random thing they had sitting around was like, you're going to train on this also. I will say I was shocked that we lost a lot of people in weapons qual. And I realized later that most of the guys that were coming in with us, they weren't like me. They hadn't just like gone to Iraq. They'd gotten out of the military 10, 15 years prior, and they just hadn't picked up a weapon. And it's a diminishing skill. So we lost a lot of people on weapons quals. The other thing you had to get as a security clearance. And I mean, you spend enough time in the military. Some of these guys are not very good with their finances. And we had one guy that was like, yeah, I just spent like 7 years in Syria. And they're like, no, you can't go. So we lost, I would say, over 50% between the weapons qual and the security clearance. We lost. Now, once you got through those two things, or when the security clearance was in process, that's when they trained you to like walk the diamond, to protect the diplomats. Here's how you drive. Here's how, you want to position your Suburbans against IEDs when you have somebody in your vehicles. So it was probably 10 days max of that training, a little bit of CQB. And then the day you got your clearance, the day I got my clearance, they're like, we'll get you out of the country today. And I was like, whoa, I still have some crap. I got some crap at home. Like, at least let me go move my stuff into storage. But it was that fast, man. Get your shots. Somebody looked at my teeth and said, hey, you got some cavities. You should get those fixed. And I was like, cool. I didn't. Like, I think the best analogy is we were kind of flying the plane and trying to build it at the same time. So everybody was just like making it up as we went. And as long as you check these 4 or 5 boxes, you were gone, man.
How old are you at this time?
23 years old. Yeah. It's like a baby. I look at the pictures and I was like, oh my gosh, it looks like I just fell out of my mom's womb.
So most of these other guys then would be like, what, mid-30s, that kind of age, a bit older?
Yeah, you actually had like a gap there because you had all these military guys that were still in. So a good example is like the Generation Kill, the miniseries, the book. Those guys, once they got done with Iraq, a lot of them came out of the contract. So you had young guys like me, and then you had like just your older crew, somewhere in their 40s probably, where they were former Rangers, former SEALs, but they never deployed. They never got their chance to go to war. So that's really what kind of like an overarching theme was. This is a way for people to go and get paid for the skills that they have. And it's their chance to actually go into war. Imagine like you're an Army Ranger. You spend 8 years in the Ranger Battalion and you never deploy. Like, this is your shot, man. And people were taking it.
Yeah, that's funny. I never really kind of thought about that kind of aspect of it, because now it's like, our kind of peer group, everyone's got their shot, right? Literally. Okay, so when you go out there, if you got a girlfriend, like, what's your family's kind of thoughts on it? Well, like, what's the kind of personal side of things?
I think my family was like, what's Blackwater? I don't even know. But they just thought, hey, Morgan's going back to Iraq. They're like, they all probably thought I had a screw loose to a certain extent, but nobody's going to tell me, don't do this. I did have a girlfriend at the time, but like, when an opportunity like that presents itself, it's like, we got to go. No, we had a guy. So the first contract we signed was actually only for 60 days. And that's because they had old contracts. Like they hadn't even created the new contract. So it was a 60-day contract. And then one of the guys in my class got over there with me. We literally got trained up. He went on like 3 or 4 runs and left after 60 days. He was gone. He had a girlfriend. He had a fiance. He's like, I'm making 30 grand. I'm out of here. After that, everybody was signing 6-month contracts. And that was kind of the basic, right? You were going to do your first 6 months. And then once you're done with that, you can do 2 months on, 1 month off. You can do 3 months, 4 months. So you can pretty much write your own contract. But for me, I realized pretty early that the tax ramifications were better if I stayed for a full year. And it had to be a full calendar year. So my entire intent was go there in 2004. So I got there August 2004 and then pretty much spend the entire year 2005. And then I was going to be done with it.
Wow. So like an 18-month deployment.
Yeah. With some breaks in between, but yeah, pretty much 18 months straight with a month off. Because if you spent more than a month out of Iraq, then you had to pay taxes on the full amount. Whereas if you stayed there for 330 out of 365 days, the first 85,000 was tax free. So taking that tax bracket from 200,000 down to about 115, you're just paying a hell of a lot less taxes.
So is it fair to say that like the financial side of it was the main motivation for you personally, as opposed to these guys who were wanting to get some quote unquote trigger time?
I would say the financial aspect for everybody back then was the primary thing, right? Like, because the State Department has its own security services. There's no reason to hire Blackwater to do this. So when we got the contract, I thought, man, they're going to replace us, get your money while you can, and then get the hell out. And that was pretty much the mentality. Now, I know some people want to wrap themselves in the flag and say, oh, I was there to help with the State Department and like all this other horse crap. Dude, that was not the priority for me. I'm not going to speak for them, but most of the guys I was with were like, dude, get over here, make as much money as you possibly can, and then get the hell out. So and if you would have offered me to do it for $350 a day, I might have still done it. But dude, I don't pretend like I was patriotic by any stretch of the imagination.
I'm going to go a bit of a tangent here. I've kind of heard before that like Bush and Cheney were looking at bringing in the draft when it became clear about how big of a mess that Iraq was and how many boots they'd need on the ground. And that essentially by hiring ex-US military plus, you know, your Brits, your Nepalese, all these other guys, that they were able to essentially avoid reinstituting the draft in America, which is obviously political hot potato to say the least. Have you ever heard any of those kind of arguments? And if so, what do you think about them?
So there was talk about needing the draft again because their recruiting numbers were so bad for the military. And what was happening is the military would go, let's say you're at a unit, you'd go over there for 12 months, and then you'd come back for 9, then you go over for another 12 months. It wasn't sustainable from like a force projection model. So yes, the draft was definitely on the table. Yes, they also used private military contractors in absolutely everything they possibly could. Now, was that to avoid the draft? It might have been, but I think it was more along the lines of we want to limit the number of soldiers that we have overseas. The U.S. public is going to be okay with 100,000 soldiers, and I'm just making it up. But you bump that up to 300,000, and everybody's going to say, holy crap, I thought we weren't there to, you know, everybody was told we're not there to conquer them. We're not going to be invaders. We're not going to be occupiers. So what do you mean we got 300,000 guys over there? Well, we still had 300,000 guys. 100,000 were soldiers. 200,000 were PMCs. So it made it easier for them to keep pushing that war jargon to keep Iraq going. And the same thing happened in Afghanistan. And you can look up the data. There was more private military contractors for the time in Iraq overall than there were soldiers at any given time. Now, sometimes there were more soldiers than PMCs. Other times there's a lot more PMCs than soldiers, especially towards the end. But at the end of the day, it just made it easier to say, oh, yeah, we're withdrawing our troops, right? Now we're from 100,000 down to 85,000. Yeah, but we just replaced them with a bunch of private military contractors.
Numbers, mate. God love over you.
Well, dude, that's why you use PMCs, right? Like,
right.
If a soldier gets killed, everybody's going to freak out. Everybody's going to be, it's going to be in every news station. If a private military contractor gets killed or hurt or maimed, nobody cares, dude. Like, they just don't care. And that's fair. That's why they paid me as much as they did.
Yeah. It is kind of crazy how that works. I will have to dig into the numbers a bit on this because it is kind of fascinating. Well, let's talk about you getting out to Baghdad for the first time then. What were your initial thoughts when you got there, and like what were your kind of first couple of days like in theater?
So you know how everybody goes in the military and they say their recruiter lied to them. Their recruiter was bullshit. I do the same thing with Blackwater, 100%, man. So we fly into Jordan. I haven't even taken a shower, and they're like, dude, we got a bird going into Baghdad right now. They put us on this old Casa bird, which is a cargo plane. You've probably seen them when like people are jumping out of planes doing skydiving and stuff. That's what they are. It's like the back drops down, people can jump out of it, or you can put cargo in there. We're flying, and I got my computer on my lap, and I'm not even buckled in, and dude, the plane just starts diving, and I'm thinking, dude, I'm dead. I'm absolutely dead. Like it is that violent that I thought we were burning in. And what happened is the pilots thought it was really funny for the guys in the back if they would just dive as hard as they could, and then you start spiraling in, right? They call it a corkscrew. So with the corkscrew, it makes it so much harder for somebody to hit you when you're corkscrewing in, whereas if you're coming in a nice straight line, they're absolutely going to be able to hit you with an RPG. So we corkscrew in. Disaster averted. They give me an AK-47 in the plane and say, hey, if the shit happens, we'll figure it out. That was it. Get off the plane, take all of our bags out. And Blackwater's like, don't worry, we got all these armored Suburbans. You guys are going to be taken care of. It's going to be great. Dude, they showed up in like Peugeots and like a bongo truck. Like none of these things had any armor. And no, I take that back. They had armor, but it was like somebody welded plates on the outside of some of these. But the windows were down. Like it was a soft skin vehicle. And I thought, what in the flying hell did I get myself into? They said, don't worry about it. Put on this body armor. They give us body armor, and it's all sweaty and gross. You could tell it's been used by everybody that's come in. They give us an M4, one magazine of ammo, and they're like, all right, we're just going to start driving down the most bombed route in Baghdad. So keep your heads on a swivel. That's what they always say. Keep your head on a swivel. I was like, dude, I don't even know what that means or what I'm looking for. But, dude, we just bonsai down Route Irish from the airport to the green zone. It's like 7.5, 8 miles. And I'm thinking, dude, we're going to die. Like you could see pockmarks where there was car bombs and IEDs on this thing. And I was like, dude, I'm not going to have any cool stories or even get a paycheck out of this. Like, I'm just going to be dead. We finally get into the green zone and like all the craziness just stops. And they say, don't worry, we're going to have somebody come pick you up. Random person shows up in a Suburban, also not armored, picks us up, puts all of our gear in there. And then they take your death photo. You know how like just before you deploy, they put you in front of a flag and you're supposed to like sit there and look tough. But they don't tell you it's for your obituary. Like, dude, it was our death photo for the State Department. They give us an ID. They go over, they hand us our ammunition, our weapons, and then they say, okay, there's a big tent over there. Go ahead and that's where you guys are going to sleep. And dude, the tent smells like piss. Like, dude, 100% piss. And I know exactly why. It's because it's so fucking hot in August of 2004 that everybody's just flipping their wiener out of it and pissing on the side instead of walking all the way to the bathroom or pissing in bottles and pouring it out. Like, dude, it's disgusting. The whole thing just smells like a dog park, man. And we finally, like, you got a Foot Locker. We put our stuff in there, rack out. And the next morning, like, this mortar hits. It's like, and dude, I thought it was a joke that they whistle when they come at you. Like, I had no idea that was real. So you hear it and you're like, holy crap. The second one gets close and it's like, to where you can feel the overpressure, where it's like, okay, that one was pretty damn close. Dude, everybody sits up in their bed and we're looking at each other like, what the hell do we do? And then the third one hits and it's close, dude. Like everything is shaking. You can feel it like kind of smashing on your guts. And this one guy jumps out of bed and runs to the bunker and everybody was like, pussy. And then we all ran after him. Because, dude, it was like a dick measuring contest. You want to be the first one to like freak out. So, dude, I mean, that was like the first 2-3 days in Baghdad were just eating food, going back to the tent, taking a nap, and then we got assigned a team, and then from there it's like, what are your normal runs? It actually surprisingly became very mundane very fast, right? You just kind of ease into it, and then you're just there.
So, what are the kind of jobs that they got you working on?
So it was less about jobs and more about like, take this ragtag bunch of group and you're just going to create a team. So I was on Templar 12 was our team name. So we were the 6th team. And it was literally like people come off a plane. They say, hey, you're on team 2, you're on team 8, you're on team 12. Once we had like 15 people, they said, okay, now you guys are mission ready. We went out to the Crossroad Monument. We train out there. And most of the training is really like, get people from vehicle A to vehicle B, right? Like this vehicle went down, let's put on tow straps, let's get it out of there. You know, somebody got injured in this vehicle, let's move them from Suburban A to Suburban B. And then they literally just say, okay, you guys are good. You guys are going to go to this place at this time tomorrow morning, figure it out. And dude, there's no GPS. There's no there's cell phones, but there's those bricks, right? Like you're not sitting there and being able to say, I need to go to the Ministry of Oil. So you look on this big map, and you say, hey, I think that's the route we're going to take. And then everybody just has an arbitrary job. So the first run is an absolute mess. We get lost. All the roads are closed. We're driving down the river right across from the green zone. I'm thinking, dude, we're just sitting ducks. Like nobody else has 3 semi-armored Suburbans driving around. We're going to get hit. We didn't. Come back in. reconstitute, we do another recon, we finally find the place, come back, pick up our principal, and we go, and then we drive them back. But what you realize pretty quick is people will kind of ease into their jobs. Like my initial job was just a window licker, open the door, yell at traffic, tell it to go away. But we had these two old guys that were driving like they were retired, like it was Fort Lauderdale, bro. Like just letting cars in, letting cars out. And so finally, I was like, dude, fuck this. Like, let me drive. So I became the lead vehicle driver with the team leader, and then like it just kind of like people just start finding their spot, if that makes any sense. And then you put those old people in the back because you're like, where's the least you can do? Oh, I'll put them in the back, the trunk monkey. So you got these like 50, like mid-40s guys that are sitting in the back of this thing that are all pissed off and grumpy about it. And I'm like, yeah, but you can drive, you can't shoot. Like, just go get in the back, man.
So what do they do? What do they do in the back? Because I've seen, obviously, the pictures, you know, when you've got these signs on the back, like stay away, and some dude in the back with a weapon. And is that?
Yeah.
So like a tail gunner on a bomber?
Kinda, except that you got armor on the back, right? So the Suburbans that we had were not the ones where it was unarmored in the back and they'd put the trunk up. They were armored. So we literally just had a guy sitting in the back to sit in the back. Like dude, being the trunk monkey sucked, man. It was, and I'm 6'2". I had to do it a few times. Yeah. It's absolutely miserable, but it's like theoretically, he's like a radio guy. Like, hey, there's a car coming up on us. But you can't do anything about it, man.
That's fine. So, when it comes to kind of what I talk about training and orders and stuff, so was there a training package in place for this stuff you were doing at the Swords, or was it all down to like a team leader's initiative?
Oh, dude, it was just whatever the team leader said. Like 100%. Hey, today we're going to go and tow vehicles. Today, I mean, dude, sometimes we just went out to the Crossroads and we took pictures, right? We were just tourists. Yeah, or driving around. You could make it as good or as bad as you wanted, right? Like we did some small unit tactics. The zoo used to be right there, so that was all kind of abandoned. So we do some small unit tactics, a little bit of CQB based off of the buildings that you had. But for the most part, it was just like, there's no training package. There's no rules of engagement briefing. There's no, all the stuff that you did in the military just didn't exist. It was like a bunch of grown men, big boy rules. Assume the guy next to you knows what the hell he's doing. And when you figure out they don't, boot them off the team and send them somewhere else.
So you mentioned rules of engagement. What were they?
Nothing. There was no rules of engagement. It was zero. Dude, there was no brief. Okay, I take that back. There was a briefing that said, hey, we're here to help the State Department rebuild this country, so try not to piss off the local population. Like, that was it. But our entire mission was get this guy from point A to point B safely and get him back to the green zone. That was it. So, dude, we were running cars off the road. We were essentially going the wrong way in traffic. We did whatever the hell we wanted to get this guy from point A to point B. And when you compare that to like the military, the military has rules of engagement. They have different steps you have to go to for your use of force. We didn't have that, man. Like we would take water bottles, open up a door, and just start flinging them at people. Like, stop your car. Or if cars got too close, you open the doors and you keep them back as far as you can. You could engage cars if you wanted to. We realized pretty quickly, if you shot, you were supposed to do like a statement on it. The problem is, you do a statement on it, you hand it to a State Department guy, and they say, well, why'd you shoot? They ask 1,000 questions. So you just stop telling them, right? As long as nobody's in the car and nobody notices what happened, there's no reason for us to do a statement on it. So it was the Wild West. No rules. Get this guy over there, get him home. Is it that shocking?
Sorry, mate. Can you just repeat that last part from no rules?
No, there was literally no rules. It was get a guy from point A to point B is however you want and get him back home. That was it.
And what about so you're going out on these missions? How did it work with like an orders process and stuff and briefings and all of that? You're laughing at me.
I know. I knew you asked because, dude, I was in the military too, right? Where you have like the pre-mission brief, and it's like, okay, you're going to do an operations order, and you got all this stuff, and team 1 is going to do this, team 2 is going to do this. This is where, dude, none of that shit was anything. Like our pre-mission brief was, hey, we're going to the Ministry of Oil tomorrow. Be at the vehicles at 10 a.m. We're leaving at 10:30. Let's rock and roll. Dude, it did get more professional. I know it did. I was talking to a guy and he said, yeah, they were teaching, orders, briefings and all that stuff in Moyoc, 4 or 5 years later. But when I was there, it was quite literally show up, get your crap on, look out your window, and let's roll.
So when was the first time you kind of had any contact with bad guys?
Dude, so, and maybe I don't personalize it enough, but I was pretty damn lucky, right? Like we had a convoy blown up. I think it was early 05. We had a convoy get hit. The concern was not like, are you going to take fire? Are you going to stand and fight? The concern was always, is this car going to get blown up? Is there an IED here? It's going to blow you up. Is there small arms fire? Who cares, dude? Like, let's be honest here. If there's small arms fire, you just keep driving. We are not in a position to be able to sit there and say, oh, let's go take out that gunner, that sniper. We're just not. So get the hell out of there. The biggest concern was always car bombs. So like, I would say the first time where I actually had to flip off safe and shoot at a car, we were on the elevated highway and this red car screaming up at us and we're honking. I don't know what those guys do, but if you honk at them, like they don't care. If you point a pistol or a rifle at them, they don't care. You point a pistol at them, they'll freak out. They'll stop. But for some reason, dude, this guy was just not stopping. He's probably going 70 miles an hour. I flipped it off safe. I put like 6 rounds in between, hitting in front of his car, the tires, the engine block. And then by the time I actually got to the point that I was engaging like the windshield, we were already down the road. So it like I think a lot of private military contractors will sit there and tell you like they were always in the poop. Like, oh my God, it was so crazy. Dude, the worst part was always getting mortared and rocketed, right? Because there's nothing you can do about that. So either I'm the luckiest private military contractor ever, and there wasn't like, there were the few times where my butthole was puckered up and I thought, oh my God, it's coming. But at the same time, I think a lot of those guys are making it sound like they were the warriors out there taking down Saddam Hussein and his... We just weren't. That wasn't our job.
So what would be a reason why you might pucker up a little bit? What might cause something like that?
Well, dude, so when I got on the QRF, which actually turned out to be more of an escort service, but not sexy, right? So the QRF theoretically was supposed to be like, oh, something bad happened. Go get these guys. What it turned out to be is we would take the Humvee and the QRF and we would lead a convoy out to wherever they were going. And then we had an ambulance and we had a back gunner in a Humvee. And then we drop them off. We come back, we grab another convoy. We take them like, dude, 8, 9, 10 runs a day. And dude, I was on the road all the time. So the fact that I didn't get blown up is either the best luck in the world or it wasn't happening as often as people say. But dude, like the hardest part is the driver's just stuck and you don't know if it's a car bomb or not, right? So as we're coming into intersections, you'd always have these cars coming in at like a 90-degree angle and they're just creeping up. And then, somebody like steps on the gas, like they're going to get in front of us or they're going to get in the middle of us. And that's when you engage. It's like, you cannot get into our convoy. And dude, that happened every day. Like when I was on the QRF, plus in the Humvees, we kept the windows down so that we could actually engage people. So if anything happened, it was like smile for the camera and then hope that they have a closed casket for you. Like we were done if anything happened.
What's it like living in the green zone?
It was a party, dude. But it was only a party for the contractors. Like, well, the contractors, but you have everybody. You got the CIA, the DIA, the NSA, you name it. And we could all drink beer. And then you have the military. And it's like imagine going into a bar in a t-shirt and everybody else is like dressed to the nines in a tuxedo. Like, dude, that's just what it felt like. Like every general, every lieutenant colonel and up were all in the green zone doing nothing. they were absolutely no help to the war effort, but they all wanted to take credit when stuff was going good. And then you have the CIA and all those guys. So really, as a Blackwater guy, we just had complete autonomy. We could go throughout the green zone wherever we wanted. You could get beer like almost on every street corner. So we'd go on our beer runs every day after we worked, and then ice the beer down, go to the pool, have like a nice little pool party, rinse and repeat. We had like a little bonfire area. So it's almost like going out and camping with your buddies where you're just sitting there drinking beer and you're just telling like these stories. Until when I was on my birthday, I turned 24 and we're sitting around this little fire and a guy takes a 9mm round and like tosses it in the fire. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, what are you doing? But we're all drinking Coronas. So another guy does it, flicks a bullet in there. And I'm thinking, what are they going to say when I die? Like, are they going to say like Morgan was a hero and he was protecting diplomats? Like he fought for freedom of the country of Iraq and for the U.S. Or are they going to be like, no, these guys were all drunk and throwing bullets into the fire? And then those things start cooking off, right? And so you see this little spark of like blue flame, and they start cooking off. And the SF guy's like, don't worry, it's not going to shoot a bullet out at you. It's just going to pop. And I was like, maybe that's true. Or maybe it's going to cook off and it's going to fucking hit me in the chest. And I want to be like, yeah, but dude, again, you don't want to be the pussy. You don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, I'm not just... So you just sit there drinking your beer and I'm throwing bullets in the fire and I'm like, all right, well, that was a fun night. Happy birthday, Morgan.
Very redneck, mate.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
And what about women?
Dude, so women was a hard one because you are in Iraq. But I will say there was like the groupies. There was like the Blackwater groupies. And so when people say private military contractor, you got to remember it's everybody that's doing laundry, cooking food, us actual like, people that do security, gunslingers. So there was always like somebody from KBR that we were partying with, or you'd have the girls from the CIA or hanging out with us. But dude, there was a club underneath the hotel. I can't remember what the hell the hotel's name is. But there was a club, like literally a discoteca, bro. So you go there, you drink beer, and I'm watching this lady that's like high up in the CIA, like grinding her ass on a 27-year-old Blackwater guy. And he's like drinking a beer. And I was like, dude, where the hell are we? Like, this is not war. This is like a subset of combat that nobody's ever going to see, which is why I was like, dude, I just have to write a book at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds bizarre, quite frankly,
But dude, it was like, take everything that you like from the military, put that in, take everything you hate from the military, remove the vast majority of that. And that was Blackwater. Like that, it was just, it like, and they treated us like the military guys would treat us like we were, I don't know, royalty, dude, like Prince Harry. I don't know if you guys still like him or not, but, like, dude, I got off the Little Bird. I had this full beard. I had long hair. I get off the Little Bird right by the airport, and I'm hungover as shit, dude. And this little private first class comes over. He's like, hey, man, how's the hunting? And I was like, I just protect diplomats. Like, I'm just here to protect some random senator that came in. And he's like, yeah, I get it, but how's the hunting? And I was like, do you have a Gatorade? I'm really hungover, bro. Like, can you just give me a Gatorade? And he's like, yeah, but like, and I was like, dude, the hunting's great. The hunting's fine. Like, I'm not going to convince you otherwise. So yes, the hunting is amazing. Just give me a Gatorade. I'm so hungover.
Do you think some of that is because of that? I remember that video circulating of the guys where they've got the little bird coming in to resupply them on the rooftop and stuff. Do you think that was kind of like that kind of built that mythology?
Yeah, well, and you got a bunch of guys in beards that are rolling around in 511 pants and shirts and like, kitted out. So I think a lot of people just assumed that we were the super duper special forces or like CIA spooks or something. But the little birds were just cool.
Yeah, the little birds, that's what the Delta are flying around with in Black Hawk Down, right? Probably the best way I could describe it for people.
Yeah, so it's a small helicopter. You got two pilots. You got two seats in the back. You got skids. Essentially that they land on, and then you can you tether in, and then you can lean out over the skids, and it's like a gunner. And dude, it does just look absolutely rad. So I don't blame them. And dude, if I was like a PFC and I saw these guys coming in, I'd probably assume the same thing. But it was definitely like they just knew that we didn't have the same rules and regulations as them, so they just automatically assume that you're like the cool guy. And I was like, I'm not. I'm just a hungover guy, man.
So, what was one of your, like, obviously the discotheque sounds like one, but was there any like really kind of bizarre moments that you had out in Iraq? And anything that you thought, this is like you saying, it's kind of saying about the club, you know, that this is not something I'm ever going to experience again.
Oh, dude, like it was a frat party. That's what it felt like a combat frat party. So we were at the pool, and it was a Thursday, right? Because they have Friday off. So usually we don't run on Fridays. Thursday night, we go to the pool. Everybody just gets wasted. And then sooner or later, they'll call the MPs on you. But you got a couple of hours there before they call the MPs and close down the party, man. So we had like some guy from Blackwater gets on top of the big high dive, jumps off, like does a cannonball, and everybody's like kind of ignoring it. And then the next guy goes up there and he does a flip off the pool. So now everybody's watching, and it's becoming like this dick measuring contest. It is like, who can one up the next guy? Next guy goes up there, he does a backflip off. You're like, okay, like now everybody's watching the pool. Next Blackwater guy comes up, you know, they get out of the pool, they come back around. Next Blackwater guy's like, I'm gonna go steal a bike. So he goes and just grabs a random bike, dude, like off the side of the building, takes it up there, drives it off of the high dive, and then everybody starts diving in after it. Like, if they're going to get the bike, they want to be the next one on the bike. Somebody finds and grabs it, pulls it up to the side, walks it up to the high dive, and starts like bunny hopping into the water. We're like, dude, it was like 10 minutes of this, and everybody's like clapping and cheering and stuff. And then, you know, somebody goes up there and does like a really crappy like belly flop, and everybody boos him and stuff. Like, it was like a sporting event. So then a couple of guys, and one of them I'm buddied with, was like, you know what we should do, man? We should yank this air conditioner off the side of this building, take it up there, and throw it in. And they did, dude. They did. They took like an air conditioner, got it to the top, threw it in, and then people were diving down. It's probably a 10-foot, 12-foot deep pool. People are diving in, and nobody can grab it. It's just too damn heavy. That's when the MPs got called, and we all got kicked out. And the first thing you do when like the MPs get called is run into the U.S. Embassy, grab some Pop-Tarts on your way back home, chug some water, and hope you're not hungover. So I was like, dude, I'm out of here. You guys have a good night. The next day, the pool is just closed. They put that crime scene tape on it, and they were like, the high dive is off limits. Nobody is ever allowed to use this again. And I had people like 2-3 years later that were like, dude, we wondered why the high dive was closed. Like that was like 2005 you guys did that? And I was like, yeah, that was 2005. They were close to like 2010, man. Like, it never opened again.
What were you ever out of Baghdad, or was all your work in that city?
No, so we got hooked in with the Regime Crimes Liaison Office. So the guys that were collecting evidence against Saddam Hussein and Chemical Ali, which sounds pretty cool, right? Like we were going to these places collecting evidence. We take them up to JSS Justice, where Saddam Hussein and all the HBIs were held. Well, Saddam Hussein was actually held in by the airport, but we did that. And the next step was we had to go up to Kurdistan because Saddam Hussein and Chemical Ali just slaughtered the Kurds. Like 1988, in Halabja, they gassed all the Kurds, killed thousands of them. They would go village to village and just slaughter any military-aged male. So I was in Kurdistan for probably 2 months. I was up there. We go to mass graves. People would be interviewed. We'd take that evidence. We'd move it down. And ultimately, like, the evidence was used to convict Saddam Hussein and Chemical Ali, and both of them were hanged. So, like, it was kind of cool. Kurdistan is like, it's like its own little city. It's its own little state. It's got its own government. It's very safe up there, which for me at 23 years old was boring as shit, man. Right? We were in a hotel. There's no gym. There's no, like, we couldn't leave the hotel either because we didn't know, like, the security of the area. So it was like just literally sitting there and watching CNN and BBC. And we had internet in the hotel. It was pretty slow because all the Blackwater guys just kept downloading porn. And we'd be like, will you stop downloading porn, bro? Like, I'm trying to actually send an email. And the guy's like, nope, I gotta get on Bang Bros again. Like, I've already used that last video up. So, dude, it was like Gilligan's Island. It's like go out and go to a village, come back. Next thing you know, like, dude, I think there was like a week and a half where we just didn't do anything. Like we like 10 days of just sitting there in a hotel, and I was like, I got to get the hell out of here. So we had a mini mutiny on the team. It was like, we were supposed to be here for a week. You guys were pushing month 2. Like, what the fuck? So they sent us all back down to Baghdad that wanted to go. And then some of those guys stayed up there. But yeah, I did Kurdistan. I went down to El Hilla where Babylon is. That's pretty cool, man. Like when you get to see the stuff from the Bible, like the Hanging Gardens, the Tower of Babel, you get to see that stuff. Like it is the cradle of civilization. And you're sitting there and you're looking at it and you're like, how is this such a shithole? Right? Like when you grow up and you hear all these stories and you're like, oh, it's amazing. And the land of milk and honey and all this. And then you're like, this place is a shithole. Like, how did people survive in this thing? So I got to do Al Hilla for, I don't know, that was like a week. And then after Baghdad, I got fired. We got fired. It's all in the book. But essentially, if you were with Blackwater and you didn't get fired at some point in the early days, you were kind of a shitbird. Like, it just, because the State Department doesn't care. The State Department will say, hey, I don't like the way that guy looked at me. That guy got caught peeing on a tree, like fire him. So what they would do is they'd say, okay, Morgan, you got fired. Where do you want to go? They'd send you wherever you want. So I went to Kirkuk after that, which is right on the border of Kurdistan.
What you get fired for?
Oh, dude. So, dude, that Humvee, we ended up hitting a bongo truck. And if you guys don't know what a bongo truck is, it's like a cattle vehicle with little tiny tires. And I think it's made out of fucking kryptonite, dude. It is the strongest piece of metal on wheels anywhere in the world. So we hit this bongo truck. I would fly and I hit my head on the ceiling. Our gunner almost flew out. I had to grab his little hairless legs. I was like, oh, hang on, Junior. You're going to be okay, man. It bent the frame of our Humvee. And we were like, well, what are we going to do with this thing? So we tried to get it fixed. They said they couldn't fix it. But we had a bunch of up armor that we got from the Army. You know, you just go over there with a bottle of Jack Daniels and say, hey, I need some of that and some of that. And the Army will hook you up. So we were taking the up armor off. So when we got a new Humvee, we'll put on there. And one of those guys at KBR was like, you can't be stealing that stuff. That's my stuff. And I was like, no, we traded the devil's honey for this. Like, it's ours, I promise. So the State Department fired us. Blackwater, to its credit, came in and said, hold on, let's do an investigation. KBR comes back and says, it's not on our books. It's not our armor. And the State Department says, yeah, screw them. They're fired anyway. So that's the first time I got fired. Which essentially just meant go up to Kirkuk and go hang out up there.
And then did you eventually wind your way back down to Baghdad?
No.
Like they put you out? That was it?
No, they put me out to pasture, man. No, it was like Kirkuk was transitioning from a triple canopy contract to a Blackwater contract. So I went up there and, dude, I don't know what it is. I'm like an idiot savant when it comes to routes. So when I was up in Kurdistan, I knew all the routes. I knew the routes in Kirkuk. So they were like, hey, Morgan, come on up here. And then they made me a team leader. So imagine me, Air Force Security Forces, watcher of planes, as a team leader, telling Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, like Special Forces guys what to do and how to do it. But once so they had to do like a status report every night of like who was who. And somebody at the State Department said, is that the same Morgan Lerette that we fired? And they're like, no, absolutely not. And they were like, Morgan, you can't be a team leader anymore. So I was the tactical commander up in Kirkuk for like the last 6 months of my time. And dude, it was a good gig. We had a volleyball court. We had a good gym. We had good food. Like, I don't know. By then I was so like stressed out and like anxious, and you can call whatever you want. You can call it PTSD. You can call it just like being burnt out. Like, it was nice to not have to think, oh, holy crap, we're going to get bombed every day. Like how we were in Baghdad.
What's that relationship like then when you've got people who have been in the Navy SEALs, Rangers, etc., and you know you've got a different background and you're the team leader? Did you have issues with that? Did you find people pretty chill with it?
Oh, dude, 100%. Dude, my first run, like, these are the most lethal children you will ever be around in your life. So on my first run, we went down to, I think it was a bank. It was a ministry of something up there, but it was essentially where they took all the money so that they could pay out the Iraqi government employees. So I get out and, we get the principal in and he's talking to whatever high up mucky he's trying to talk to. And I come back to the convoy and there's like 4 people sitting in the Suburban. They got all their kit off. They're like, one of them's taking a nap. The other one's like just listening to the radio. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, there was an IED literally 50 meters from where we were that blew up the day prior. And these guys were acting like we were on vacation on a beach. So, dude, like me and my tactical commander, he was a recon Marine. We came in and just reamed everybody's ass. But you do run into the point where there's a lot of egos in that space when you're hanging out with former special operations guys. And I'll tell you, the worst ones are absolutely Navy SEALs. Like they think they are the most tactically sound, the greatest guys ever. So they can come in on ground, having never been trained, having never been in country, and try to start being like, let's do it this way, let's do it this way. There's a reason why we do it a certain way. Like I'm not the guy that's not willing to adapt, but like we've been here. I've been here for a year, 18 months. Like, don't come in and try to start changing stuff. If you've been here for a few weeks and you say, hey, Morgan, let's do it this way, let's do it that way, I'm doing 100% willing to suggestions. But those guys would come in and be like, not all of them, but a lot of them would come in and be like, I know how to do this. I know how to make it better. And it's like, can you just take a breath? Like, take a breath and see how we do it. And then if something is better, then we'll do it later. So many egos. And most of the guys are actually really cool. Dude, I'm Air Force Security Forces. So shut your mouth, do your job. People realize that I'm good in the pocket. And they'd be like, hey, now come to the QRF. Hey, come on over here. We want you to do this. Like, you can hang out. Right? You get in the clique. But I mean, some of those guys are just dicks, dude. A lot of the time, though, the nice thing about Blackwater is once you got to a point that, like, you didn't like somebody on a team and they weren't going to be operationally effective, they'd move them over to the head shed. They'd put them in the operations and the planning side. And that happened a lot because you have to, like, just imagine with me, you're a sergeant major, you're an E9 in the Army. Everybody's been kissing your beanbag for like 10, 15 years, right? You're the sergeant major. And then you come in and this Air Force Security Forces guy is like, shut up and sit down. A lot of those people just have a really hard time letting go of control, especially the ones that are very used to that regimented like operations order. And this is how you're going to do it. We need to be there 8 hours in advance so that we can sit around for 7.5 of them. Like I think it was hard for those guys in hindsight. I feel bad for them. But at the time I was like, stop treating us like we're your PFCs. We're done. We're going to do our job. And if you don't like it, go over there and start planning stuff, man.
Was there much going on with people, especially with beer being involved? Was there a bit of score settling going on, that kind of thing?
Oh, dude, there's fist fights at the man camp. There's people fighting. Dude, we got our first female that worked for Blackwater was a dog handler. And she was not a supermodel. I'll put it that way. And dude, these guys are outside.
She's an Iraq 10 though.
Yeah, dude. She's I call them war pigs. She was a war pig, right?
Oh,
back home, she's a 4. Over here, she's an 8. Like, and dude, she had the pick of the litter. So to her credit, she's like, I want a little bit of Navy SEAL today. Tomorrow, I want some Special Forces guys. How about a recon Marine? Like, she can do whatever she wanted. And these guys are like, dude, yeah. And these guys are fist fighting outside of her room. And it's like, dude, knock it off. So like when people say we don't want women in combat roles, my retort is it's not because of the women. It's because of the guys. And like the women could probably...
It's caveman, mate. Men behaving like caveman. Yeah.
Yeah, or like, I mean, just when you have alcohol involved, we had so many people get fired for alcohol. I'm one of them. I got fired the second time because I got way too drunk. Beat up an embassy bathroom. We had a guy kicking a door when he was drunk, and he ended up slicing his calf muscle and like bleeding all over the place. Had to take him to the hospital. I mean, if there was one thing that got more people fired, by far, it was alcohol. And Blackwater had a guy, I can't remember what year it was, but he got drunk and went into the vice president's residence like his residency in the green zone, ended up shooting one of his security guards and killing him, and Blackwater got him out of the country. Like, I think most people can probably figure out how to keep their drinking in check. I don't know that we were those guys to actually be the testers of that, because we were not that good at it.
Right, well, obviously you've written the book, so we don't want to just turn this into the audio book of the book. We want people to go out and get it. But is there anything else that you'd like, any tidbits you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Dude, I wrote the book because you have so many people that were talking about what Blackwater did and didn't do. And Eric Prince wrote a book about it, and he talked about what we did, make us all sound like we're heroes. You had other authors that made us all sound like we were the villains. At the end of the day, I wrote the book because it is a ground perspective of war. It is literally like, what do you do when you're just making stuff up, and how do you execute it? And like, you know, we had some guys die. I put that in there. We had like a car accident where some kids ended up getting injured. I put that stuff in there. Because here's the thing about war. Most books sit there and they say, oh man, I was like the hero and I did all this amazing stuff and every day was combat. Every day is not combat, man. 95% of war is boring. 5% is pure, unadulterated adrenaline. And that's what you want. The war is both toxic and intoxicating. Like, you know it's bad for you the longer you stay in it. And yet there's still a part of me 20 years later that says, yeah, that'd be cool. I'd go do that Gaza gig for $1,200, right? Like, there's always that pull. It's like an addiction. And that's what war becomes. So I really, dude, I just lay it out. The Blackwater guys are pissed because I say we were mercenaries and I talk about some of the bad shit that we did. I talk about the good stuff that we did also. At the end of the day, read the book and you can decide. You can say, you know what, those guys actually helped or those guys actually hurt the war. I don't care. I don't care what you think. Either way, it's hilarious. I mean, you've been there, dude. Just think, it's like your best friends in the world that you're willing to die for, bored and just cutting up. It's like the funniest guys on the planet, some of the most intelligent people I've ever met. And it's those conversations where you're like, all right, how much money would it take for you to suck somebody off? You're right. I mean,
well, you're asking me now because I've got a prize list here somewhere I can dig
out. Dude, I mean, it's like you go and it's like $8 million, and people are like, no, and you're like, $20,000 and a lollipop afterwards. Let's rock. Like, dude, I mean, it's just like, it is like the greatest group of guys sitting around a campfire telling stories, and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, and then I had to shoot that guy, or yeah, and then a helicopter went down. We had 7 people die. Like, the human aspect of war, I think it's lost a lot when people talk about the heroics of it. Like, dude, we lost some dudes. I lost some friends. It fucking hurts. Like, it still hurts. And now what we're seeing in the Blackwater community is that our suicide rate is higher than the number of guys that actually died working for Blackwater. And it takes a toll on you. And being a contractor is just completely different than being in the military. You don't have that social structure when you get home. You don't get a parade when you die, you know. Nobody says, oh, the Blackwater guy died. Let's make sure that we bury him in Arlington National Cemetery with a 21-gun salute. Like, it is a weird place to be. And if anybody wants to be a PMC, I mean, happy to talk to people that are looking at being in the career field, because it's a hard fucking life, man.
When I got to Iraq, there was my first job was working with the bomb disposal guys, and I just remember this bomb disposal guy basically, like, you know, he had to do like this free from explosive thing when if a vehicle got blown up, he had to make sure the body was free from explosives and whatever. And he remembered, so he used to keep a picture of his office of what was left of some guys that had been contractors that had been hit by an EFP in their unarmored vehicle. He said every time someone's talking about joining it, he said, I'll show them this picture and stuff. That kind of stuck with me. It just kind of shut that memory loose. But yeah, dude, the one about the funerals and stuff is really interesting because everyone's there on the same mission, right? You are there on the same mission. You're there for the State Department, so you're there for the United States, the same mission as the military's on. But there's almost this thing of, oh, well, those guys they're there for $500 a day. But it's like, well, if you like, you're not there for free as a soldier. we're all getting paid, and God, every single one of us knows we were always complaining. We always wanted more money for being overseas. So it's not like there wasn't a financial aspect involved. But it's almost, it's weird that there's this level, you know, you're talking about the levels of how much does it cost to suck somebody off. There's this level of how much does it cost to not care about a death in a war zone. Oh, he gets 5. Okay, what if he's getting 200? Is he worth having a funeral then? Okay, yeah, maybe we'll consider if he's getting $200 a day, but not if he's getting 500. You know, it's very weird, mate, as you're saying. I'm glad you've done a book out of it, mate, because I do think it's a very overlooked aspect of things. Is there anything else we haven't covered, mate, that you'd like to share?
No, dude, it's actually interesting right now because private military contractor jobs are blowing up. Like, dude, it's insane. But yeah, you got Gaza, you got Ukraine, you got Haiti, you got like DRC, you got El Salvador. Like, they are all over the place right now. And what I'm watching in the news is the same things that we were learning through, the things that we were trying to figure out on the fly, are all the lessons that they're trying to learn again, right? Like the guys in Gaza had a couple of guys get injured. So the 2 guys that got injured, it made the news for like 6 hours. If that was a soldier, it would have been in the news for a week. So you have all, like, everything it's cyclical, and I'm watching it happen again and again and again. And I can't tell you how many people have reached out and say, hey, I want to be a PMC. And I'm like, I'm going to tell you the good and the bad here, bro. I'm going to tell you the money's good, but everything else is pretty bad.
I mean, I guess, like, unlike the military, you know, where you have, say, operational experience, you lose a lot of it when people go, but then you keep some of it because, one, it's kind of codified into TTPs and everything, and then 2, you know, the idea is that your sergeant major, by the time the next war rolls around, he was a private in the last one, now he's a sergeant major, and you've still got that institutionalized knowledge. Like, dude, when I'm reading about Second World War, even First World War soldiers, I'm like, oh, shit, that's the same stuff we did. And you realize that you're doing stuff that was learned and kept in the army for 100 years. But I guess when you've got private military company and people just probably leave en masse at certain points as contracts come down, and then you have to build that all again. Okay, it's a very interesting wrinkle to the whole thing.
Yeah. You know what's cool, just kind of as a side note, drone warfare has actually driven us back to trench warfare. So drones being able to go into a battle space, and you see this in the Ukraine with Russia all the time, has actually driven them to start building trenches and living in trenches, World War I style, and actually, you know, taking down trenches the way that we had to World War I, World War II. So yes, dude, everything in war that is new is something that you're going to adapt, but it's always going to come back to the guys on the ground. From a PMC perspective, I think it's you have more people with more combat experience, but it's such a different job that I think you do lose a lot of that institutional knowledge. And a lot of guys, they did it like I did. You do it for 2-3 years. You have enough to pay off your house. This is my advice. Pay off your house, pay off all your debt, have $200,000 in the bank, whatever it is, set that goal. And then they left. And the difference is that once you set a goal and you meet it, you can choose to go back. You want to go back. You don't have to go back. Dude, my first contract, I blew every fucking penny of it. Every penny, dude, I blew it. I had to go back. And you just don't want to be in that situation. And I can tell you right now that there's some Blackwater guys that are still contracting 20 years later that don't have any money. And, you know, over the course of 20 years, they've made millions of dollars and they don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. And they're just chasing the dragon, dude.
Is that several ex-wives or just really good Vegas weekends?
Several ex-wives. They didn't pay their taxes because they thought like we were soldiers and we didn't have to, you know, it was tax-free. You know, their accountant screwed them. There's a 1,000 reasons, but essentially the only reason is they weren't paying attention to their own money and they don't have it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good lesson, whatever walk of life you're in. Pay attention to your money.
Yeah.
Learned that one the hard way myself, mate. So here's one, mate. I got to ask you, I got an inclination of what the answer would be, but the good, the bad, where you are now with your life, would you do it all again?
Oh, 100%. Dude, I would do it. I would do it in a heartbeat, man. Now, I won't do it. I will say that there was a lot of guys over there that were like throwing away their marriages and like, you know, like not seeing their kids. Like, dude, there's 1,000 stories like that. And at my age, I'm not going to do it. I got kids, I got a wife, I got a house. But dude, for me at the time, pretty much a single guy, didn't have any bills. Like, why the hell not? Do it when you're young, because man, I'll tell you what, that body armor weighs on your back after a while, and you're going to get sciatica, and you're not going to want to put it on anymore.
All right, mate. Any final words for the listeners?
No, just grab the book. It's also an audio book if you get tired of hearing me. Comedian Jay Moore read it for the audio. And then if I can answer any questions about the PMC world, or if you guys are looking into it, just reach out to me on Instagram, X, TikTok, whatever the hell it is. I'm happy to talk you through it. Maybe you can make less bad decisions than I did. That's all I'm hoping for.
All right, brother. Well, thanks so much for your time today, mate. I hope everyone picks up a copy of the book. I'll let them know where to get it down in the show notes. But yeah, thanks for going on, mate. It's been a blast.
Thanks, guys. Take care.